How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and Auto Camp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means, that's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. And we've made it. The season has arrived, which means it's pretty much August, which means it's time to start marking some stuff down. Mark it down Mondays have officially started. 614-350-3315. The 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. For the next 4 or 5 weeks here, I'll be sending along different surveys, different questions, because it's time to start making stat predictions every Monday leading up to Ohio State's season opening game against Texas on August 30th. We're starting with the starting 22. And this isn't a project the two deep. It's not a project the traditional starting lineup. If you want to be weird about this, you can be weird about this Buckeye Talk, but we are projecting who is going to take the first snap on each side of the ball, who are the 11 people who are going to be on the field. And we can have a conversation, obviously, throughout this about what we think the traditional starting lineup is going to be, but this is about marking something down so that when you're wrong or right, you can say you were wrong or right. So if you want to go 2 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, have at it. You want to go 22 personnel? Have at it. You think Ohio State might come out in a bear front? You should talk about that. You think they're going to come out and dime? You should talk about that. Here's how we're going to do this. 3 sections: offense, defense, quarterbacks. That's how we're going to do these sections, because in the quarterbacks, it's as much about who we think is going to take that first snap as much as it is about us. I want us to mark down, and we kind of dibbled into this last week when we were at Big Ten Media Days, but I want us to officially mark down when we think Ryan Day is going to name his starting quarterback, and not necessarily with the date, but how many days before the season opener he does it, because I have the numbers on when he's done it with the other 4 quarterbacks as well. Stefan, what side do you want to start in? You want to start defense or you want to start offense?
Let's start with offense.
Okay, let's start with the offense. So here's what's happening here. I'm going to just say who I think is the starter. Well, the first snap taker at all 10 offensive positions that are non-quarterback and all 11 defensive positions. And it's going to be like Stefan and Andrew's job to go, yeah, I agree with you, Stephen, or go, Stephen, you are an idiot. Why would you ever say that name? What is wrong with you? Be a better host and pick a better name than that. If we all agree, we'll have a short conversation as to why we think that person is going to start. If we have a disagreement, then we'll discuss that maybe a little bit more in length about why we feel the way we feel about different things. So let's start at running back. I think there are co-starters in terms of their usage throughout the season, Andrew. And Carlos Loughlin has both vocalized that during the offseason, but also what we saw with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. But somebody has to take the first snap, unless you think they're coming out in 22 personnel, which I do not believe they are going to do, which is why I am rolling with James Peoples as my starting running back. He is going to be the first running back to take the field against Texas.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of like running back is the weird one where you could say like, all right, do you want to start in a 2-back set and whatever? Or it's one of the weird ones where it's like you could do this, you could do that. But I think last year there was much more of a debate. It feels like this year there's much more of a clear, this guy's going to be your best running back. Like, whereas last year, I think you could have made a case for Quinshon or Trey. This year, I don't know if you can make that case.
Stefan, do you think James Peoples takes the first snap in every single? Because we had this conversation too, where it's like we think this in the season opener, but it might be this game and then that game. And I think Travion Henderson took the first snap in every game up until the Penn State game. That was the first time we saw Quinshawn take the first snap. But then we also saw games after that where Travion took the first snap. It was almost just like after especially in the playoff, it was almost like a roll of the dice who Carlos Loughlin was going to send out there first. Do you think we see that in 2025, or do we just think James Peoples is he's the 1A in the 1A, 1B situation?
I think we'll see them both get a decent amount of starts. I do have James Peoples getting the first snap, though. Right before we got on here, James tweeted some photos from Ohio State's media day, and he called it the money year. So this is his year to prove himself, although I do think he's going to share a decent workload in the backfield.
Can I ask a question? Can it really be called a media day if the media wasn't there? Can it just be picture day?
I mean, photos and videos and stuff shared on social media.
Yeah, but like we're the media. Like imagine Big Ten
media is evolving. Everyone is media now. Social media.
Right. No, that's true. Everybody is evolving that. That is true. I told James back in June when we were in there for the day camps, I went up to him and said, "You look like you're ready to get the ball 20 plus times against Texas." And he went, "Hell yeah, feed me." With a dead look in his eye. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Give him the ball 20 times. I don't think he's going to get the ball 20 times because Carlos Loughlin's not rocking like that. But the concept of this is a guy you can give the ball to and he can go be a dude for you. So, I don't know. I guess Jerry J is going to start at X receiver, I guess. Like, you think he's good enough to do that?
I think he would start at X receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
How many teams in the NFL right now would he not be their best receiver?
I had this conversation with somebody last year at the Vikings, he's not their best receiver. The Bengals, he's not their best receiver.
I think that's it.
The Cowboys with CD, the Giants with Neighbors, like
he's better than Neighbors.
Well, I don't know about that. But here's the thing. But here's the point. Here's the point that's nuts. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, you go, yeah, you got to give it to him. And then everybody else, Malik Neighbors might have like 1,500 yards receiving this year, and CD Lamb has been like on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and we're just like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. And that's crazy that we're able to do that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think that it's worth a debate, not here, but it's nuts that we're here.
I think Neighbors is only in this conversation because he's closer to JJ in age. So you can't use, like with the CD Lamb thing, I agree. CD is probably better than JJ still right now. But then you start taking age into account and it's like, what can CD do that JJ can't do? And JJ's like 5-6 years younger than him. So you take that one. Neighbors is young, so I can see that. But Neighbors is really, really good. He's not a physical freak, though. I just think he's a very talented and speedy wide receiver who also plays for a coach who, if all else fails, he's going to get the speedy wide receiver the ball, even if the guy who's throwing it to him is god-awful at everything else. Cardinal Tate, Z receiver? Okay. Yeah. Those are two of the three returning day one starters for Ohio State this past year. And the other one, I'm wondering if there's going to be a conversation about whether or not he has his job or not. Slot receiver Brandon Ennis.
Yes.
So we all think they're going to take the field with three wide receivers to start the game.
Yeah, I think Brian Hartline's first play call is going to be with his three receivers on the field.
And not only that, last year I got burned. We did this from our hotel in Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days. And I think I projected 4 wide on the first play of the game.
You did.
And I picked Jaden Ballard to be out there. I think
you didn't pick Jeremiah Smith to be a starter last year, even though I was pleading with you to pick Jeremiah Smith.
I remember thinking you know what? Let me just let's take a long shot because then I'll look like a genius if I'm right. And who will care if I'm wrong? And who cares that I was wrong? But I don't want to do that again. But then from a very more real football stance, I think the guy that we're going to get into next, I'm sure you want him on the field, and I think you want as much comfortability with a new starting quarterback. You want things to look familiar.
I thought about the idea that maybe they go 12 to start the game. I didn't pick it, obviously, because I said Brandon Ennis at slot, but I thought about, for 2 seconds, 12 personnel, play action, deep shot, just to kind of set a tone for the game. But more than likely, it's probably going to be like an RPL throw. Stefan, I'll ask you, did you go Max Clare or Will Kazmarek for the first?
Max Clare. I thought about both of them for a second too, but I went with Max Clare.
Andrew, I'm assuming you went Max Clare over Will Kazmarek.
Yeah, I have him projected to do a bunch of stat stuff, so I can't leave him off.
This isn't about.
No, I know the rules of the game. I know the rules of this. I know that. I think that you want your best tight end to start. You want your best 11 to start on the first play of the season. And like I said, the comfortability with Julian Sand, I think Max Clare might be that guy.
Are we sure he's their best tight end? Like overall, or is he just their best pass catcher in the tight end room?
I would say,
yeah, go ahead, Stefan.
I would say he has enough of an advantage in the pass catching category to where even if he lacks in other areas, he's still your best tight end. There's a chance he's the first tight end taken in the NFL draft.
No, I know that, but that room is deep. And again, this is about the first play of the game. And I chose Max Clare, but a part of me was open to like, okay, what's the play call? Because if you're running the ball, maybe it is better to have Will Kazmarek out there for the first snap. Because I'm thinking Max Clare is a better receiving threat at tight end than G. Scott, even though G. Scott's former top 100 receiver who turned into a tight end. I think Will Kazmarek started against Oregon. So that's what I'm thinking about here. It's not, I get it. Max Clare is a dude in this offense where it's like, oh man, a tight end might have 60 catches. Like, I get all that. And I understand that the first and all that stuff, but like in terms of what he brings to Ohio State and what the tight ends are traditionally asked to do here, and we're talking about one snap, not a totality of a season, I expect Max Clare to play the most snaps of any tight end here. I expect him to have the most usage of any tight end here. In fact, in the next couple of weeks here, we're going to start doing stat stuff, and one of the things I'm going to send to our texters is I'm going to have them rank Ohio State's receiving threats in terms of how many catches they're going to have. And it's JJ, Max Clare, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers. Max Clare is the only tight end on the list I'm going to send to our texters. I get all that. But Will Kazmarek wasn't their best receiving tight end a year ago. And he started in the first big game they played. Because blocking in that instance was more important than Will Kazmarek as a receiving threat. But also they threw Will Kazmarek a 15-yard pass that probably should have been called for an interception, but it wasn't. So I don't think it's as cut and dry when it's about one play, not about the overarching thing as a starter.
Yeah, and I can see it. The reason I almost went with two tight ends is just because you do have such an elite pass rush from Texas. So maybe you have your tight ends out there early, even if it is a passing play to help out, as we try to figure out exactly how good, Ethan Owens is and how, we all think Austin Serval is a great player, but if he's your starting right tackle, that is still his first time starting out there, right? Like there's factors to that as well. So that's why I consider it a two tight end. I think Max Clare is going to be a good enough blocker to where he can be on the field for any play call. And I think we're going to see that early against Texas. I wouldn't if they're running the ball, it still would not surprise you if Max Clare was the one tight end on the field.
When we were doing this, I thought about it and I was like, well, I think Will Kazmarek is going to get the first snap when they play the Bobcats in week 3. I think that. So I was like, I think in a different scenario, but like I think you want to come out kind of Pistons firing against Texas. And I think that look of 11 personnel where you have your 3 receivers on the field with Max Clare, I think you want to show immediately that we have weapons at all levels of this offense. Whereas Will Kazmarek, I think you want to be able to give your young quarterback a better pass receiving threat, I think, right from the get-go, right from play one.
Sure, except he's got 3 of them who are probably going to be day 1 draft picks. And
so
Texas,
why not?
Like all those weapons and stuff is cool until Julian Sand or Lincoln Keenholz is laying flat on their back.
I mean,
Texas has one of the best defensive lines in the country, and Colin Simmons, him and Dylan Stewart are probably the 2 best pass rushers in the country, and Colin Simmons is playing in this game. So you want all these weapons you have to worry about, but a good way to not have to worry about those weapons is if you can't get the ball off. And we are not 100% sure about Ethan Nyawa and Austin Serval, or Phillip Daniels, or Ian Moore, or Cardinal. We have confidence based off the springs they've had and based off the way they've talked about it, but it can't be both ways. We can't go, I don't know, Ethan Nyawa's never really played against guys like this. I don't know, Austin Serval's never really played against guys like this. But at the same time, not consider giving them a little help with a chip on the first play of the game. That's all I'm saying. I picked Max Clare, and it's because he's a starting tight end. I just didn't dismiss the idea of how about we keep a 6 blocker in on the first play.
Will Kazmarek played the most snaps of tight ends in the Texas game when we did our rewatchable. I mentioned that.
Yes, and I understand. G. Scott made the play in the receiving game that was probably one of the 5 biggest plays in that game because of what it set up. And G. Scott had a pretty busy day in the receiving game as well. But Will Kazmarek played the most. And you want to know why? Because Texas's front 7 will get after you, especially since they just sit back and zone behind it. Max Clare's the answer. Because I'm pretty sure G. Scott also started in that Texas game. But if Will Kazmarek is the only tight end on the field when Ohio State's offense takes the field for the first time, I'm not going to bat an eye and think there's something wrong with Max Clare.
So since we are all in agreement here, let me ask you guys this: if Max Clare, even if he starts, is there a snap count that if he didn't reach it against Texas, because we've said it, Texas might have the best pass rush in the country. If it's not them, it might be Penn State, and they're also on Ohio State's schedule, so which is why I asked this. If Max Clare doesn't play X amount of snap against Texas, would there be part of you that's concerned about his blocking abilities? Because we all know that he came to Ohio State to become more well-rounded.
Right.
And if against Texas, a team where they're going to need the tight end to help block a good amount, if he plays like 15 snaps, are you going to be looking at that saying, okay, there's maybe some more work here to be done than I thought? Especially when you look at the teams that are left on the schedule.
Yes, because it's going to tell me a lot. Let me tell you why. It's going to tell me a lot about because we've been having this discussion all offseason, right, about tight end usage and what we think is going to happen, and we'll be marking some of that stuff down next week. But I'm looking at last season against teams who had significant pass rushers. G. Scott played 55 snaps against Oregon. Kazmarek broke his arm, so he only played 3 snaps, so we can't even really count that one. But he did start that game. He came back against Indiana, which was his first game back. He played 18 snaps, and G. Scott played 34 snaps. Tennessee, G. Scott played 34 snaps. Will Kazmarek played 37 snaps. Oregon, the second time around, Will Kazmarek played 37 snaps, and G. Scott played 32. Excuse me, I got that wrong. Will Kazmarek played 32 against Tennessee. G. Scott played 34. G. Scott against Oregon, 32 to Will Kazmarek's 37. Against Texas, 27 for G. Scott, 36 for Will Kazmarek. Against Notre Dame, 31 for G. Scott, 38 for Will Kazmarek.
So 15 was obviously a hyperbolic number. If he doesn't get to 30, are you saying, okay, that's interesting?
If he's under 30 against teams where we know the defensive line might get after you a little bit, it makes me start rethinking Max Clare's role in this offense, because it still means that Ohio State's valuing blocking above everything else.
Because, that means, to me, that doesn't mean we think Will Kazmarek's a better blocker. To me, like a lower number like that wouldn't be, well, it's just the matchup thing. A lower number would mean Max Clare is an outright liability blocking. That, I think that there's a difference between those two things. I think there's a difference between, hey, you know what? Will Kazmarek just is that really good, and that dude might have, one of the safest NFL draft projections on Ohio State's offense because he's going to go be a third tight end somewhere, and he's going to make the team because he can block and blah, 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 blah. And that might make sense. If you are telling me that like Max Clare is not reaching, 15,
if he's not G. Scott level as a blocker, it's a problem.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I think what the crux of this kind of point would be like if Ohio State runs 60 plays and he doesn't have 30 snaps, and I think it's also like determine like how his usage looks. Like if he's only on the field in third and long situations where you need to throw the ball and you need somebody out there and he's not playing that many snaps, to me, that screams, not only do we not think he's as good of a blocker as Will Kazmarek, that screams, we genuinely just can't have him on the field. So I don't think that that's a problem. I don't think that that's going to be a problem necessarily.
No.
Low would be no.
Yeah,
that would be a red flag.
On a scale of 1 to 10, like how serious do I think this could be? I'm not like a 1. Like I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not a 1 or 2. It's more, but it's again, they don't need Max Clare in the passing game. They have him, and they're going to use him in the passing. But if he's not G. Scott level blocker in a world where your other passing options are Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Bryson Rogers, Mylan Graham, James Peoples, they'll live without it because they've been living without it for a literal decade, especially in a room that deep. Like Bennett Christian's going to play, Jelani Thurman is going to play, Will Kazmarek is going to play, and Max Clare is going to play. So Max Clare is not Brock Bowers level. At least I don't think he is. And so since he's not Brock Bowers level as a receiving threat, they don't have to be in this all or nothing role with Max Clare. But the point of the matter is, I think their top 2 at tight end is really solidified. And if Will Kazmarek takes the first snap, won't be shocked, even though I'm thinking Max Clare will do it. Ethan Yawa, starting left tackle. Luke Montgomery, starting left guard. Carson Hinsman, starting center. Tegra Shabola, starting right guard. And Austin Saraveld, starting right tackle.
Yeah. The only thing that I think you could really kind of debate would be like right guard at that point. I know people in the building love Gabe Van Sickle, and they've been kind of waiting for him to pop, and they've been waiting for him. Like, I had somebody tell me, like, when this guy puts it all together, he's gonna be a really, really good player. He's gonna play in the NFL for a long time. I think you could make a case for Phillip Daniels in that spot as well. If you feel comfortable with, Ian Moore maybe at right tackle or something like that. But to me, this was pretty basic and straightforward.
Trying to see if Phillip Daniels has ever played guard.
He repped at guard a little bit during the spring. Now
Right,
we'll
no,
see
but
about
like in a
fall camp.
football
Yeah,
game.
the fall
No.
camp stuff is going to be interesting.
No, I get
Where he
that.
starts to
I'm
slide
speaking in an actual football game though, because he's like Gabe Van Sickle didn't play any snaps last year, so Phillip Daniels has only ever played right tackle in his career. No, he's played a little bit of left tackle, but he's only ever played tackle in his career as a college football player. And Gabe Van Sickle didn't play at all next year. I think Gabe Van Sickle's probably a year away, but the fact that there's already good things being said about him, I think probably gives you a bit of confidence in what Ohio State's going to have in 2026. So I think with Phillip Daniels, I think this becomes a conversation where if Tegra Shabola is their third best offensive lineman, do you move Austin Saravel back inside and put Phillip Daniels at right tackle, or do you move Phillip Daniels to right guard and keep Austin Saravel outside? But I think that is Tegra Shabola. If you're looking for your best five, is Tegra Shabola one of your best five?
Are we open to the idea of Tegra Shabola taking a step this year?
Yes.
He started every game for Ohio State last year, and here we are going into the season. I think all three of us project him to be the starting right guard.
Yes.
So what if some of those concerns about Tegra Shabola go away? I just, with the resources Ohio State has, I struggle to think that they wouldn't have been more aggressive in the portal, specifically at right guard, if they truly thought Tegra didn't have another step to take.
I think it's less about Tegra Shabola and my worries about him, and more about you went and got guys out of the transfer portal. So maybe there's just an upgrade to be had there, regardless of what.
If Phillip Daniels would probably be the only argument there, then
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you, because we were talking about that back in the winter of, yes, go get two offensive linemen. Worst case scenario, the guys who are already here develop and they're better than the guys you got out of the portal, and so now you've just got depth. So I think this is a win-win scenario regardless of how this plays out. Okay, so that's the offense. James Peoples, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innis, Max Clare, Ethan Inyawa, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Tegra Shabola, Austin Saravel. We'll take a break and then we'll flip over to the defensive side here on Buckeye Talk.
Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are back in Disney's Freakier Friday
Yes, totally. Yes.
on August 8th.
We switched bodies. I am freaking out right now.
Let's pause and reframe.
Get tickets now
Now.
for the ultimate movie event of the summer.
I definitely don't know how to act as an old person. What do? Talk about transitional lenses, home repairs, John Mayer, or,
Coldplay.
Disney's Freakier Friday in theaters August 8th. Get tickets now. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
My name is Happy Gilmore. I haven't swung a club in years.
You know what you gotta do? Grip it and rip it.
Now that is some Happy Gilmore.
Everyone is talking about the comeback kid, Happy Gilmore.
Happy Knee.
Yeah, baby.
Happy Gilmore 2, only on Netflix July 25th. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. We are breaking down Ohio State's starting 22 against Texas. And this means who's taking the first snap of the game. We all predicting 11 personnel to start the game against Texas on offense. And now we get to the defensive side, where I'm wondering if guys got a little creative with this. I'm going to start in the back end and work my way up to the front. Caleb Downs is playing Caleb Downs. But for the sake of what we're doing here, he's playing safety.
yes,
Okay.
technically labeled a safety.
Positionless football.
What about running back?
All right, Ryan
Wouldn't
Day.
it have been great if I just said, all right, guys, Caleb Downs is going to start at running back. The Heisman campaign starts now.
I mean,
Jeremiah lined up in the slot.
I thought about putting Jeremiah in the slot.
Did you? Was it week 1 last year that he got his snap at tight end? Was that against Akron?
His hand was in the dirt.
Okay, what if, all right, they just, Julian Sand on the bench, and they have Downs and Jeremiah in the backfield.
See, now you guys want to throw out all these creative. I'm down. I'm down for Caleb playing any position he wants to play. If that dude wants to play left guard, I think if you give him 6 months to eat a bunch of donuts, he'd figure it out. I went with Malik Hartford as my other starting safety. Did anybody think about Jalen McClain?
I think this is, one of the more legitimate battles of training camp. I think they're quote unquote illegitimate battles of training camp that we're going to hear from coaches that are battles, namely one that we're going to get to the end of the podcast and talk about. But I think safety is a legitimate battle, but I think Malik Hartford has the edge, and I probably think he's going to be the guy there. And when you talk about what's going to happen at our next position, I think Malik Hartford starting next to Caleb Downs just makes sense.
Stefan, you have Malik.
Yeah, I am very open to the idea of Jalen McLean starting. I think what happened in the spring was Malik was pretty impressive, and was he? I can't remember. Was he hurt? Was he limited or?
No, he was playing. What happened was during the season, Malik Hartford was dealing with injuries, and so it allowed Jalen McLean, who had flashed in the spring, to have an opportunity. And I think it was easy to just say, "Oh, Jalen McLean's jumping Malik Hartford." In the hierarchy here, and it's just like, no, Malik wasn't healthy, and now he's healthy, and he looks like he's ready to play.
Yeah. So I'm open to the idea, though, of Jalen McLean. Like we heard when Emeka Buka just throws out your name, like it sticks in the back of my mind like nothing else. So like I am very open to this being, like Andrew said, maybe the best position battle in this in fall camp. But I am leaning Malik as well. By the way, one more thing on Emeka. Did you guys see the clip of Baker Mayfield on the Kelsey podcast? Yeah. Draft Emeka Buka in your fantasy football leagues.
I would draft Emeka. I would draft Garrett Wilson because Justin Fields is only going to throw him the ball. And they just gave him $130 million. And Aaron Glenn, when we were at the combine, somebody asked him about Garrett, and he was just like, just give him the ball as much as possible.
And by the way, in fantasy football, you can have Emeka Buka and Jackson Smith-Njigba.
You can do that. I would draft all three of those. And
yes. If those are your three wide receivers.
You have three dudes with 90-plus catches.
We also, not talking about Marv. And frankly, if Chris Olave had a quarterback, I would take him as well.
Listen, man, Chris Olave is just trying to survive every day. After Derek Carr was trying to take him out every single Sunday.
That's a fun podcast. Like, which Ohio State receiver is going to have the best NFL season? Because you're like, you can point to the best guys, and you're like, oh, well, there's one guy who's currently holding out, who is maybe the best quarterback of anybody on that list. There's a lot of really, really talented Ohio State receivers in the league right now that are going to absolutely kill it in 25.
If we're going to play that game, we have to do it this year or next year.
Yeah.
Because after that, the answer is easy. Which Ohio State receiver will have the best season? I'm taking JJ.
After that,
JJ will still be here.
No, that's what I'm saying. We have to do it this year and next year, because then once JJ's in the league, we can't play that game anymore.
Yeah.
You
just have to say
it's not a game. It's Scotty Scheffler versus the field.
Yeah.
You just have to say which Ohio State receiver is going to have the second best NFL season this year.
JJ's going to have 120 catches his first year in the league. Michael Thomas, you're in trouble. Okay, nickel. I thought a long time about this. I thought about people who have only been playing nickel during their time at Ohio State. I thought about young, talented guys. I thought about what gets the best 11 on the field. But in our opinions here, the reason I settled here is because of the opponent. I think if they were playing Grambling, State, or OU first, I think I would throw a different answer out there. But you have to go with the guy you know can play the position, even if you don't think he's the guy who, by the end of the year, is still playing the position. Because I would assume that right now they have more trust in Lorenzo Styles at nickel than they do the two young, even if they're five-star cornerbacks, being a starting cornerback against a top five team that might be, if you had to make a list of games right now in the preseason of this could be a preview of the national championship game, Ohio State, Texas is probably on that list. Alabama, Georgia, I think might be on that list. I think LSU, Clemson might be on that list, depending on how you feel about Brian Kelly. Oregon, Penn State might be on that list. Penn State, Ohio State might be on that list. This is one of those games, and this is the first of the year. That's one of those games. And I just don't know if you can throw a young guy into that fire if you don't have to do it. So I went Lorenzo Styles as the starting nickel to start the season.
Yeah, I echo basically everything you said there. I think because of the timing of when this game is in the season, you're going to be a bit more conservative with this position specifically.
Andrew, let's flip the schedule real quick. Let's say this is like 2023 where there's a build up to the big game.
Right.
So let's just assume they're playing Grambling State and Ohio the first 2 weeks of the season before you play Texas. What's your answer at nickel?
That's a good question. I think, honestly, I might be the inverse of you guys. I think you start Lorenzo Styles at nickel if you start.
Still?
Yes. Well, Not still. I think against a team like Texas, which is gonna have look, Sark is able to scheme some stuff up, and Sark's going to be ready for you. And I think you want to put your best corners on the field in that game, which is why I have Jermaine Matthews starting in the slot against Texas. I think Matthews is going to be one of those guys where Tim Walton is going to have because we are all very high on Jermaine Matthews, and we saw him do it before. And I think he's going to have a very, very frank realization at some point during camp if he hasn't had it already. And he's going to say, Jermaine Matthews is one of our 3 best corners. He needs to be on the field against a team that has a lot of talent at receiver and might be really efficient passing the football. We can't do this. Let's put Lorenzo Styles out there. And if it doesn't work, well, then we have a better corner maybe, or at least a more talented corner that we can slide into the slot and say, hey, here we go. We could just do this, because what happens if the first 2 drives don't go great and then you got to make that change? I think you start with Jermaine Matthews, because if you start aggressive, I don't think anybody's saying that Lorenzo Styles doesn't know how to play the nickel, doesn't know how to do it, can't do it. I think you start with your best guys there. And to me, that's Jermaine Matthews. To me, that is somebody that has played the position at a high level, has flashed incredibly high. I'm putting him out on the field on the first snap against Texas.
Your debate though isn't Lorenzo and Jermaine. Jermaine's not coming off the field. Now your debate is Lorenzo or Devin or Aaron. Because if Lorenzo's on the field, Jermaine's not coming off.
Well, not necessarily.
So you think Jermaine's only playing nickel?
No, I think he could play on the outside too, but I have 2 other guys that are going to play on the outside as well.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I think you have 2 other guys on the outside and then Jermaine on the inside. And I think if you needed to make a change, like if you wanted to put Lorenzo on the field, you could move Jermaine on the outside if you wanted to.
Right, that's the point.
I don't think that this is like a rigid situation.
No, it's not. But what we're saying is Jermaine Matthews is going to be a starting defensive back for Ohio State.
Yes, and I think it's going to be.
So the conversation isn't Lorenzo Styles versus Jermaine Matthews. It's Lorenzo Styles or somebody else starting at outside cornerback. That's what Jermaine is not in the conversation of will he start or not.
Sure.
So my question to you is, I guess we can bring the other corners in here.
They're all intertwined.
But they're not though. They're 2 very different positions. We said Jordan Hancock could do both, but he didn't do that often. The only game he really played both nickel and cornerback was in 2023 because Denzel Burke got hurt. And you didn't just want to throw our 2 freshmen out there for 70 snaps against Penn State. That was not it is not normal for guys to be able to play both. Sean Wade was an elite nickel for Ohio State. They moved him outside and he was picked forward. Right. So to say they are not. There's a reason why outside cornerbacks are constantly top 10 draft picks, while nickels are lucky to see themselves get drafted in the 3rd round. So we can't say they're interchangeable when they are not. We have to both be sure that Jermaine Matthews is an elite nickel, which there's no actual proof of that because he played 28 snaps in the slot last year, and 21 of them came against Nebraska. And part of the reason why is because Lathan Ransom didn't play, and so Jordan Hancock had to play more high safety. He's played 30 snaps at nickel in his entire career of his 588 snaps. We know Jermaine can cover outside. We don't know for sure he can play nickel, and we for sure do not know that Devin Sanchez and Aaron Scott are 100% ready for this type of thing. So I just want to make sure this is what you want it to be, and that's fine. But we can't just say that nickel and corner are interchangeable when literally everything about football tells you they're not interchangeable. You have Aaron or Devin?
I had Aaron.
Okay.
I had Aaron and IGB on the outside.
You are 100% sure that Aaron Scott is ready for his first meaningful snaps as a college football player, as a guy who played 74 snaps last year. And again, that matters, but only so much. But this is Ohio State we're talking about. This is what they do. They replace really good players with really good players, sometimes even better players than the guy who had the position before. So I don't want to make this are you sure that Aaron Scott's going to be good? He's a 5-star recruit.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, he's a 5-star recruit.
Like if we
conversation if he's not good by year 2, not if he is good by year 2. Why? So it's less about that and more about you being sure that Jermaine can play nickel more than it is about whether or not Aaron Scott, as a 5-star recruit in his 2nd year, is ready to go be a good football player for Ohio State. You are 100% sure that Jermaine Matthews, who has 30 snaps of nickel under his belt, 21 of them came because somebody got hurt, is ready to play nickel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also what I'm not going to do though is like pretend that Lorenzo Styles has been a starting nickel for 2 years. Like Lorenzo Styles, he's got more reps. You don't need to read the rep count out. I get it. But like I think like we're talking about a guy who just was a depth player who played when it was mop-up time against the poopy teams of the Big Ten, right? He played 24 snaps against Purdue. He played 20 snaps against Northwestern. Like when, he played 23 total against Akron and Marshall. Like I get it.
Okay.
But I think Aaron Scott is somebody that you throw him out there to start because I went back and forth about this because I think Igbinosin is locked in. And then you go to the other side and you say, what's the best case scenario for Aaron Scott? Okay, well, Aaron Scott just doesn't give that position up, right? Like, for as much as we talk about Devin Sanchez, it's okay, well, this is a 5-star corner as well. They're both 5-star corners. Devin, top 10 player, whatever. What's the worst case scenario? Aaron Scott's not ready. Then do you want to go to Devin, or do you want to have that scenario, or do you want to have Devin, you throw him out there, Devin's not ready, you go to Aaron Scott. And I think I'm starting with the veteran. I'm starting with the guy who has been around a little bit, the guy who has been through kind of the off season and a season and another weight conditioning summer and all those things. So I went with a safer pick here. Maybe I get burned because,
I don't think that's the safer pick. I think that's the more aggressive pick.
To put Aaron Scott out there?
To move a guy who is essentially...
The Matthews thing is aggressive.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying the Scott or Sanchez.
No, that's what we're saying. This isn't about this is about you moving a guy to a whole different position. Yeah. Like Aaron Scott being ready to play college football in year 2. He's a 5-star recruit. He should be ready to go. Yeah. After a year of learning. That doesn't mean he's going to be the best version of himself, but it does mean he should be ready to go. This is about you are moving a guy a different position.
I'm putting Matt
essentially. For me, I don't know, Stefan, you might think differently.
Yeah, I don't think it's too aggressive. I think the debate, like this is the point I was trying to make earlier. I think what Gillis is debating isn't Lorenzo versus Jermaine. I think what he's debating is what's a better combo, Lorenzo and Jermaine, or Jermaine and Aaron Scott. And I guess that comes down to how trusting you are of Jermaine to play the slot. And if you think Jermaine's ready to go, and like I don't think that's an absurd thing because we saw him rep there in the spring. It's obvious Ohio State wants to throw that option out there. Like if you think Jermaine is ready to go in the slot, I'm not opposed to the idea of Aaron Scott being ready to go at outside. Like he should be ready to go.
I think my only
I just don't know if Jermaine's ready snap 1 game 1 to play the slot.
I also don't know if like him repping at nickel the last 2 years in the spring, where it's more about individual development than trying to put together a game plan anyway, is more because they envision him doing that long term, which is why we do this Market Down Monday before we see anything, because then like you're locked in. You have to go off of the information you have leading up to before fall camp. I don't know if we see. Like when Jordan Hancock was repping at nickel, it's because they recruited him to come play nickel. I don't know if this is like a Donovan Jackson doing some tackle stuff because like, well, you want to cross-train people because you never know what might happen. I don't know what might happen. I don't know. Your first-round left tackle might get hurt against Oregon, and then your backup gets hurt against Nebraska, so now you got to play your left guard at left tackle. Who knows, right? It's how Tyler Bowen in the spring was cross-training everybody but Ethan and Yawa because you want to just make sure that in a pinch, people know how to play different positions. I think that is different than us going, no, Austin Saraveld is playing right tackle in the spring, and that means something. We think he might be their starting right tackle. And I can't figure out which one it is yet with Jermaine Matthews because he wasn't the only one that was repping at nickel in the spring. A lot of guys are repping at nickel. I don't think this is crazy, though. If their starting cornerback trio is a 5-star, a third-year starter who, according to Andrew, might be a first-round draft pick, and a third-year former top 60 recruit who might be on the verge of a breakout season, that's not a crazy thing to say. So, let's make that abundantly clear.
Yeah, if Jermaine is ready to play nickel, I think a trio of Jermaine Davison and Aaron Scott or Devin Sanchez, whichever one is more ready, is better than a trio of Davison, Jermaine, and Lorenzo Styles.
I agree.
It's just a matter of, is Jermaine ready to do that? Do they want him to do that?
Can I ask?
And Gillis saying yes to that, I don't think is necessarily a wrong answer.
So I was thinking about this. This isn't necessarily the question. I think this is helpful for me just to kind of figure out like how you guys view the room. You had Lorenzo in at the nickel, IGB on the outside, Jermaine Matthews on the outside. That was your starting trio, correct? Okay. First snap of the season, Lorenzo Styles tweaks an ankle, needs to go off the field, is off the field. What's your backup nickel at that position?
I mean,
what would be your second choice is my question.
I mean, either Jermaine Matthews or Bryce West, who's a top 100 recruit in year 2, is like ready to go.
Okay.
I think the same thing applies. Top 100 recruits in year 2 being ready to play football isn't
not insane.
No, it's not insane. So yeah, that's the other part of this equation is maybe, I don't know, is Bryce West ready? And maybe he's the starting nickel against Texas. The options aren't Lorenzo Styles or nothing for Ohio. Right. So front 7 time. Sonny Styles is the starting Will linebacker.
Yes.
Do we think I know he's playing Will in terms of like his function on the field, but are we anticipating that he's the guy who has the green dot and not the actual Mike linebacker?
I could see that because he and Cody kind of traded off more so than Cody and Arvell.
Right. So Will...
I imagine against Texas, Sonny has the green dot.
Yeah. So Will by ball snapped, these are my responsibilities. But Mike, in terms of like vocal presence and like getting everybody organized and whatnot.
Are you opposed to Caleb Downs having a green dot?
No, I'm not. I was going to throw that out there next. Yeah. I'm not at all.
And it could just be a preference thing. I mean, if Caleb, doesn't want that, then why would you give it to him? But it makes sense.
I don't know how many safeties in football, period, have the green dot, but I don't know how many safeties are Caleb. So it gotta go.
There's not many safeties that are projected top 5 picks.
Yeah. How many safeties out there are telling teams, hey, you should just throw away positional value and just take this guy? Arvell reset, Mike?
Yep.
Yes.
Does anybody have more than 2 linebackers on the field for the opening snap?
I do not.
I thought about it.
I thought very hard.
I thought really, really hard about it, but then we'll get into why here in a minute.
I thought extremely hard about putting Peyton Pierce out there alongside these two and taking a defensive lineman off the field. The reason I didn't take a defensive lineman off the field is because Ryan Day said a third name at Big Ten Media Days when he was talking about defensive tackle depth. Had he not said a third name, had he had the same language about the defensive tackle depth that he had coming out of the spring, I would have taken a defensive tackle off the field and started a third linebacker, and I'd say that they were running a 3-3-5. Because if you only have 2 defensive tackles, you can't play them both at the same time. Because
Ryan Day's comments on defensive tackle at Big Ten Media Days was maybe the first time I've exhaled a little bit when it comes to defensive tackle.
Especially since it wasn't a name I was thinking of first when it was like, okay, this guy's got to take a jump. Yeah. Right? He was probably the third guy I was thinking about when it's talking about taking a jump. Let's start at defensive tackle, Caden McDonald. And
that guy is Will Smith Jr., by the way.
Yeah, we were gonna get there. It's Will Smith.
Well, we're not gonna talk about him as a starter. Well, they're listening on Monday. That happened on Tuesday. It's been a while. A refresher. It was Will Smith Jr.
It's Will Smith Jr. Yeah, whose father was a former All-American here, the late Will Smith. Edric and Caden are the starters. I don't think anybody's okay. Here's my question then, because they're gonna have to rotate. Those guys can't play 75 snaps. Do I think they play 58 snaps against Texas? Yes, I do. But who's the guy who rotates in? Is it Will Smith? That's the first guy off the bench when somebody needs a breather on the interior? Or do we think Jason Moore and Tywan Malone might spend the next 30 days after Ryan Day essentially just lit a fire under both of their butts, and now we see them actually start to take that jump in fall camp?
I think it's probably Will Smith.
Yeah, I think you listen to what Ryan says about that.
But again, is that him saying that because do we listen more to the name he did say or the fact that he didn't say the other 2 names?
I guess my question is if Will Smith comes on the field, who comes off?
First, probably Caden, just because he's bigger and we'll probably need the breather first.
That was the direction I was going to. But then there's part of me that's wondering if the Texas rushing attack is as good as we think it is, maybe Edric comes off first.
Yeah, because that's what I was. Because then at that point, you're 285, 290 at both your defensive tackle positions, which is a little light. Now, hilarious to look at Edric Houston and Will Smith Jr. as regular.
It's relative to the position. Tywan Malone needs to take a jump over the next 30 days because they have one true nose right now.
Yes,
and they need Tywan Malone to play to 12 to 15 snaps again. And if he can play more than that, even better. Edric might be a all Big Ten dude by the end of this year, and that's fine. But I don't think anybody's worried about Ohio State's ability to get the passer. They're worried about their ability to stop the run. And Edric is still new. This is still his first full year at defensive tackle. And so it can't be, hey, Caden McDonald came off of the field and now we can't stop the run. It needs to be, hey, Tylee came off of the field against Penn State and Caden McDonald made a play.
Yeah.
So and of the three guys behind those two, Tywan Malone's physical makeup best describes nose tackle.
To me, Ohio State might have the best interior starting defensive tackle tandem in the Big Ten. And I think we still kind of have concerns about defensive tackle, and it's all about the depth behind it. So I think you put those two guys on the field, and I think that there was part of me that wanted to take one of them off to just kind of get funky with it. But I really think those guys are going to be awesome. And I think, this Texas game might not be the game where you really rotate a lot at defensive tackle. I think you're going to need to at some degree, but that's going to come in the following 2 weeks.
I laugh because our exhale about defensive tackle depth lasted all of 13 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay, and it's some of that's because of who they're playing.
Yeah,
right. We can say Texas has some good receivers. Like Ryan Wingo, it sounds like is going to be in for a breakout year this year. But it's not like their receivers last year. They were fast, but they weren't super productive. None of them had over 58 catches last year. It's part of the reason I thought more about the linebacker situation is because Texas really gets its running backs involved in the pass game, like a lot. I mean, remember, both of their touchdowns last year, they weren't to receivers. They were on wheel routes to a running back, which is why we've been talking a lot about Sonny Styles and his ability to cover. Trey Wisener had 44 catches last year. Jadon Blue had 42 catches last year. Matthew Golden is the only wide receiver of last year who had more than 50 catches. He had 58. While Gunnar Helm, their starting tight end last year, and they got another really good tight end this year, had 60 catches last year. They are not they throw the ball, but they don't throw it the way that Ohio State throws the ball. Now, can that change this year because Ryan Wingo in year 2 takes a step? And so Matthew Golden turned 58 catches into 987 yards and 9 touchdowns. And Ryan Wingo turned 58 catches into 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns? Maybe. But that's still just one option at wide receiver. It's the pre-snap motion. It's the running backs on wheel routes. Arch Manning can wiggle a little bit more than Quinn Ewers can. It's not the coverage for me. It's not the back end. It's the front end for Ohio State. So that's why I started thinking about the 3 linebacker look, because maybe you just have a guy out there who's like, your job is to make sure Arch Manning stays his butt in that pocket and proves he's got an arm.
And so that I think is actually maybe a decent argument for Caden McDonald being the one. If you were to be funky and put a third linebacker out there, maybe you take McDonald out there because if the quarterback can run, do you want more speed?
No. Yeah, but you can just contain him. That's on that.
Sure.
The quarterback running is not on the defensive tackle.
Yeah, but
the edges to not get undisciplined the way that JT would at times last year, and Dylan Gabriel would get loose. I don't know. A defensive tackle's main job responsibility, especially in this defensive scheme that we've seen the last 3 years, isn't to make sure the quarterback doesn't run. It's to eat up double teams so that the linebackers can make tackles in the hole, and then if the defensive ends do their job in making sure that the quarterbacks don't get out the pocket and he has to step up, then you can do what Mike Hall and Tyleek Williams did for multiple years and say, hey, Arch Manning, come give me a hug. But it's not built around keeping up with a quarterback. It's built around containing quarterbacks and making sure that nothing is explosive. Now, how much does that change under Matt Patricia? I think that's part of the equation here because that might be a little bit different in a world where CJ Hicks and Arvell Reese might come off the edge a little bit more. So maybe that responsibility falls more on the defensive end position that we're going to talk about right now.
Can I ask one question real quick?
Of course.
Texas, 29 rushing carries recorded against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State's defensive tackles, at least in terms of depth, takes a step back, and Arch Manning is way more mobile and more willing to run the ball than Quinn Ewers. Would you be surprised if that number was 40 or above in week 1? 40.
No, I think the first thing Texas is going to do is test the middle of Ohio State's defense before they do anything else. Ohio State's got too much speed on the edge this year to try to outrun them, but I do think you can just go through them potentially. And Texas is a good team to gauge that a little bit. Though I think it might be the problem is I don't know if it's to Texas' advantage to do that in terms of their personnel makeup either, because they're replacing a bunch of offensive linemen, but you have to test it. You got to see if you can run the ball in the middle against Ohio State. Because you don't beat Ohio State by trying to go over them or around them. You beat them by going straight through them. Kenyatta Jackson at one defensive end spot. So we're going to be driving the bus later this week. I think I might be picking Kenyatta Jackson.
Did we? Yeah, I was going to say, how much of that either outright was because of or aided because of some of the things that were said at Big Ten Media Days. Like Sonny was pretty effusive with Kenyatta in his expectations for him this year.
I was already thinking about it, but I mean, JJ calling him a first rounder definitely helped. So, I mean, but even Ryan Day was talking about some of the, like, he seems like he's really stepped up into this. JT and Jack are gone. This is my defensive line room now, in a way that I'm not sure people were 100% expecting, but he's done a good job of doing that. Bo Atkinson or Caden Curry, Andrew?
I think it's Bo Atkinson.
Bo Atkinson or Caden Curry, Stefan?
I went with Bo Atkinson.
Why?
I think he might just be better.
You don't think this is a situation like Trey and Quinshawn, where the guy who's been here gets the first snap, even if he doesn't play the more snaps?
I could see it for that reason, but it's Texas.
Would you be picking Bo Atkinson if they were playing OU or Grambling State first?
And I still am not like, I'm like 51-49.
Sure.
We've just been hearing a lot about Bo Atkinson this offseason.
Yeah, we've heard good things about Bo, and then not only that, I mean, Bo was a really, really high level player that came out of the portal that had a lot of answers. And Ohio State, with probably Caden Curry projected to start on the opposite side of Kenyatta, if we believe that about Kenyatta, like the first round talent stuff, like with Caden Curry there, Ohio State deemed it important and necessary to go make it a pretty big investment to go get Bo Atkinson.
Did they? I feel like Bo Atkinson audition was similar to the Max Clare audition, where it's more about the like. It
One of
helps.
those, like, you can never have too many pass rushers situation.
Yeah, like I don't know if they 100%. If Bo Atkinson didn't hop in the portal, would Ohio State have added a defensive end? Or did they add one because Bo Atkinson was in the portal?
Yeah, I don't think they opened the portal page and went to DN and said, we'll take whoever's here. It felt like Bo Atkinson's name was atop the players available list, and they took him.
Yeah, but you got him.
He's really damn good.
Yeah. Andrew, if they were playing Ohio or Grambling State, would you have still picked Bo Atkinson?
Yep. I think you made it a priority to go get this guy, like whether or not like he was just there. Like I understand, like you could debate to some degree about that, but like you did go get him. And Steven, we were walking around at the recruiting camps, and Steven just kept like looking back at him every couple of minutes. And
he's a very large.
Atkinson is a big dude. Yeah. He just kept saying he's a big dude, man. And then I think the next one was he's a large human being. Like he just kept pointing that out. And then you hear some things behind the scenes about Bo, and I wonder if Bo Atkinson is just going to be one of those. I think this might be the position to where we have the most debate about, and then we get a week into fall camp, we see 3 practices, and we go, why the hell did we ever debate that? Of course it's Bo Atkinson and Kenyatta Jackson.
I mean, Caden Curry makes plays every single time.
Yeah, I'm not saying Caden Curry won't. I just think he might be your third, and I think it might be one of those Bo Atkinson and Kenyatta Jackson are just 1 and 2 clear cut.
My reasoning for picking Bo Atkinson is because he's bigger than Caden Curry, and you have to stop the run first. I think third down, if we see Caden Curry out there, who also has been on the interior of the Rushman package at times, so he looks undersized, but he doesn't play undersized. You got to stop the run, and Bo Atkinson has very large shoulders. I think they're going to start Bo Atkinson. I think I would be picking Caden Curry if they weren't playing, because we're talking about Larry Johnson still, and he goes with the guys who have been around and been in the system and know and he knows that they know what they're doing. He always goes there first. So if they were playing OU or Grambling State first, I think that Caden Curry would take the first snap. I also think that Caden Curry, Bo Atkinson, and Kenyatta Jackson are all going to be well north of 400 snaps this year. So this is a first snap conversation, not a who is going to play and who is not going to play conversation. Nobody said CJ Hicks.
CJ Hicks was the guy to where, like, that I thought about if you were to take a defensive lineman off the field, aka either Caden or Edric, I think that would be your guy to where you have CJ kind of bump down and you run like a 3-3-5 type look. That would have been the answer for me, but I didn't have.
Can't say that because he's not a linebacker anymore.
Yeah, he's not a linebacker.
It's still 4-2.
I guess, yeah.
You know, you put down there, put down number 8 from Glenville down there. That's what you do. And I honestly think they're going to do that a lot. I honestly think that because Peyton Pierce is just a traditional linebacker. And so I think what we're going to see is Sonny Styles and Peyton Pierce being a more traditional linebacker. Well, Sonny Styles will obviously come off and blitz there every so often. But when we see that 3-3-5 look, if we see it, it's going to be Garvell Reese coming down because he's 6'4", 235.
We should have done offense Predict who plays the first snap. Defense, predict who plays the first 3rd and 7.
That's a better way to put it, because I think at that point you're taking Caden off the field, and then like at that. But here's the thing. The funny thing about that is 3rd and 7. I think there's just as good of an argument, if not a better argument, to say Arvell and Sonny are going to kind of stick at their traditional linebacker spots, and then you kind of walk CJ down because it's a pass opportunity, not Arvell because
but it's not a walk now. He's just playing defensive end.
I mean, he could be a stand-up, and then you can buzz him out in coverage. Like, he could be like a 34 almost outside linebacker.
Did you watch the Purdue game last year?
Did I watch the what game?
The Purdue game last year? They dropped him in coverage. It wasn't great.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of CJ in coverage.
No, I think
CJ is a defensive end.
Yeah.
I do not Adam Jackson or Caden Curry in coverage.
No, like they put JT. They did that with JT and Jack sometimes and dropped them in coverage. They were also 4-year defensive ends who had been in the system for 3. Like, they're not dropping. TJ Hicks is out there to go look at the. You see that man dropping back with the ball? Go get him as many times as you can this season. I think Rushman package, though. I think there's a world where it's CJ's on edge. I think Kenyatta's on an edge. I think this is a variation of it. There's going to be a lot of different variations, but I think one of the variations we might see this year is CJ and Kenyatta off the edge, and then Bo and Caden Curry on the interior, or Caden Curry and Edric Houston, or Edric Houston and Bo Atkinson. And then maybe sometimes you see Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese also coming off the edge. But I do think when they're in Rushman package, I think for sure that the outside guys are probably going to be Kenyatta Jackson and CJ Hicks. And that might be where CJ is most impactful, is 3rd and 7. So that's defense. Kenyatta Jackson, Bo Atkinson, Caden McDonald, Edric Houston, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Jermaine Matthews, Davis Nate, Manosin, Lorenzo Styles, Caleb Downs, and Malik Hartford. That is what Stefan and I have. The only difference for Andrew is instead of Jermaine Matthews as an outside corner, he moves in the nickel, and Lorenzo Styles comes off the field, and Aaron Scott Jr. is his other starting outside corner. Let's take our final break, and then we'll mark down the quarterback here on Buckeye Talk.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
Not all meals are created equal. For instance, breakfast has the spicy Egg McMuffin for a limited time, and lunch doesn't. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis, marking down Ohio State's starting players who will take the first snap of the game against Texas on each side of the ball. We're all picking Julian Sand. Ryan Day has not picked the starter yet, but we've all kind of reached a point here, and I know I speak for all of us because we've had enough of these conversations away from microphones and on microphones. We would be significantly shocked if Julian Sand is not the person Ryan Day eventually names as the starting quarterback. And it's not a slight against Lincoln. It's just, we've seen and heard enough that the way this is going to end is the moment that Julian Sand can do the thing that Ryan Day is looking for, and that's the "this is my team" part of this, Ryan Day is going to name him. So instead of us doing that and trying to have a 15-minute conversation where we all just say, Steve and I agree with you, I want to do this instead. I have the dates that every single quarterback since Ryan Day has been the head coach has been named the starting quarterback, and how far away that was from the season opener. And as an average, it's 11.5 days before season openers that Ryan Day has named his starting quarterbacks. So for this year, that would be either August 19th or August 18th of Justin Fields got named the starter in 2019 on August 19th, 2019. The season opener that year against Florida Atlantic was August 31st. That was 13 days before the season opener. CJ Stroud in 2021 was named the starting quarterback on August 21st, 2021. The season opener was on September 2nd. That was a Thursday that year, if I'm remembering correctly. That was 12 days before the season opener. I might have that wrong, so I'm going to check that while I'm doing that. But that's 12 days before the season opener. I want to make sure of that, actually. I'm not always great at math, as you can see. Yeah. It was a Thursday. So it's 12 days before the season opener. Kyle McCord's is a little tricky, but Ryan Day named him as the starting quarterback for the season opener against Indiana on August 29th. That was the same day as game week. It was essentially his Tuesday press conference of game week. So it was 5 days before the season opener on September 2nd at Indiana. He was officially full-time. I'm just throwing this out here for the sake of that, just in case anybody thinks Ryan Day might do this. He was named the full-time starter heading into the Western Kentucky game that year. That was September 12th. So that was 10 days after the season opener. I'm just throwing that out there for the sake of facts. But he was named the starter for the season opener on August 29th, 5 days before the season opener. That's the latest Ryan Day has named the starting quarterback. And then you have Will Howard last year, who is the earliest Ryan Day has ever named the starting quarterback. The season opener was on August 31st against Akron. He named Will Howard the starter on August 15th. Stefan, I think that might have been your first day in Columbus, if I'm
I think so.
Yeah, because that's the second time that we've hired someone at cleveland.com whose first day in Columbus on the beat was the day Ryan Day named the starter. Nathan got here on August 19th. 16 days before the season opener, Ryan Day named Will Howard the starter. That's the earliest. So in order, Will Howard, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord. That's an average of 11 and a half days. Over, under 11 and a half days before the season opener. Stefan, does Ryan Day name the starting quarterback?
I am going under. I think it's going to be August 11th. So about 19.
So that would be
19.
Because if it's the number of days, right? Over 11 and a half. So
okay, you're right. I'll go. Okay,
I want to make sure I had
say before or after, if that helps everybody.
Okay, before or after, yeah.
Before August 11th. So the cutoff we're looking at is about August 19th. I think it's going to be August 11th.
So you're saying 20 days before the season opener, he names a starting quarterback. That would be the earliest, significantly 4 days earlier. It's almost a whole week. That's a week earlier than Justin Fields. It's a week earlier than CJ Stroud, and that's 2 weeks earlier than Kyle McCord. And it's 4 days earlier than Will Howard got named the starting quarterback. You essentially think that Julian Sand is going to spend the first 7 days of fall camp wrapping this thing up.
And I think he's spent a lot of the summer winning the team over.
I don't know if we said this on a microphone or not, but you brought up the fact that Ryan answered. I think you were the one who asked about the quarterbacks. And then he brought up the idea of I'm going to get with Mick and we're going to look at who might have been the Iron Buckeyes and whatnot. And I think you said it. If Julian Sand is an Iron Buckeye, this is over.
Yeah, because Day bringing up the iron and what do you say, golden iron Buckeye?
It's just it's just the levels. Like gold, Iron Buckeye is the ultimate level, and like gold is right under that, and blue under that.
Though that was brought up in the context of the quarterback competition. He was asked about basically where the quarterback competition has gone this summer. I believe it was Joey Kaufman from the Dispatch that had asked him at the big podium, and he had essentially said, these guys, there's not a ton you could take from the summer, which he is correct about that. There's not a ton you could take from the summer. But he brought up the idea of we'll see where these guys are in Golden Iron Buckeye. Like, if one of these quarterbacks is an Iron Buckeye, it's either Lincoln Kienholz is an Iron Buckeye and we're saying, okay, hang on, maybe there's some competition here. If Julian Sain's an Iron Buckeye, what are we talking about? And I feel like Day tossing that out there makes me think maybe one of these guys will be an Iron Buckeye.
It's the ultimate something, nothing, or everything.
Yeah. It's the ultimate talking season.
Yeah. Andrew, how many days?
I think it's before. And I think you might get close to that 11 and a half day thing publicly. I think there is going to be a determination before that. Like maybe a couple of days before that. I threw out on a previous pod. What's up?
Put a date on it.
I'm gonna say August 18th, Monday. Because I originally threw out a day of August 15th, that Friday. And I said, at that point, you have 2 weeks of fall camp. Camp starts the 31st, right? 31st. You have the 1st of, you have that. So that kind of week, you get through 2 weeks of camp. You make a determination. You see guys in different situations. Because again, the first few days of camp are not, hey guys, let's put on pads and smack the crap out of each other. Like there is a building in period to this. And like, I think you do want to see the evolution of Julian. I do think you want to see him get pushed. I think you want to see him in those scenarios. So I said August 15th, but the thing that I kept thinking of was I was like, that might be the perfect time, like the 13th, 14th, 15th for Ryan Day to talk to us and then say, Julian is starting to separate himself. We have a scrimmage on August 16th. And we'll see. And that's why I said the 18th. So I originally said like the 15th would be a good idea because you have that kind of 2 week buffer. So I'm still going to agree with that. I feel like this is a situation where Lincoln Kienholz will be told and Julian Sand will be told who's the starting quarterback. And the team will be told on the weekend of August 16th, that Saturday weekend, after the scrimmage at some point, and then I think we find out about it on Monday, August 18th, because that's the week really, like the first 2 weeks of camp, you're really probably just going to be, repping your stuff, doing some Texas specific stuff. Once you get into the week of the 18th and the 25th, it is pure Texas. And I think you want that situation. So Monday, August 18th, that is the day we find out.
It's 15 days. It's 15.
The 18th?
No. Sorry.
Yeah, the 15th, yes. The 18th is 12.
Yeah, it's 12 days. Mine is 15 days. I went with the 15th.
Okay.
Here's why I'm going with the 15th. That's a Thursday. No, sorry. The 14th.
15th is a Friday, right?
14th. So that's 16 days for me. I'm essentially splitting you two in the middle. And I'm not doing this on purpose. I didn't hear your answers. No, I said this because I thought about, my reasoning is combining both of your guys' reasonings. Justin Fields and CJ Stroud got 2 scrimmages before Ryan Day named them. It was the first scrimmage that made you go, okay. And then the second scrimmage made you go, yeah, everything I already thought just got validated in that second scrimmage. Will Howard got 1 scrimmage. They started practice last year on August 1st. It's always the Thursday going into August. So August 1st, they started. So they put pads on, I think that's Sunday, August 4th, because it's 2 days of an acclimation period. And then it's 2 more days of you got everything on, but you're not tackling to the ground. And then on the 6th day of practice is when you are full go. They had their first scrimmage on the 10th. And I think Ryan Day wanted to get through the 17th before he named his starting quarterback. But Will Howard performed so well in that scrimmage, and he got the locker room that Ryan Day couldn't make it to the 17th. And he was probably going to do it the 19th, which was, to your point, Andrew, 2 weeks out, which is essentially what Justin Fields and CJ Stroud are. They're 2 weeks out from the game. So now I'm thinking about this year, how I think things might go. Thursday, they're in uppers. Friday, they're in uppers. Saturday and Sunday, they put on full, but they're not tackling to the ground. August 4th is the first day of their full tackle. August 9th, they have their first scrimmage. I think if Brian Day had not brought up the whole Iron Buckeye thing in relation to the quarterback, Stefan, I would be with Andrew and say they're going to go through 2 scrimmages and then Ryan Day is going to name Julian Sand because he wants to get through. Whether Julian Sands won the job or not, he wants to get through 2 scrimmages before he does this because why do it any earlier when you're not starting game prep until you're 2 weeks out anyway? But if Julian Sand had the type of summer where he did the one thing that we all right now are questioning, and that's his ability to be a leader and to be vocal and to command a locker room, if he spent the summer doing that, then there's no need to go through 2 scrimmages when he's already the better arm talent. So because of that, I think it might play out very similar this year where they get through that first scrimmage on the 9th, go through the next week of practice, and then that Thursday, after we talk to Ryan Day on a Monday, August 11th, we don't have the schedule yet. So some of this is projecting what we think the schedule might be. If we talk to Ryan Day that Monday, and he says the magic words Andrew's talking about of Julian Sand is starting to separate or he's starting to take command of the offense, whatever the verbiage he uses, then 4 days later, he's going to name Julian Sand as a starting quarterback. So that's what I'm going to mark down. You mark down, Stefan, August 11th. I'm marking down August 14th, and Andrew is marking down August 18th. That would be 16, 20, and 12 days before the season opener because that's Ryan Day's process. So that's our markdown. Those are our starting 22 for the Texas game. 614-350-3315. Driving the bus is up next. There are a lot of candidates to choose from. Will Andrew double down on his bust from a year ago? Will Stefan continue to fall in love with a linebacker from Glenville? Is Steven going to pick another wide receiver? That'll be later this week. Plus, we're going to be talking about previewing fall camp later this week as well. That if you want to drive a bus, get the text 614-350-3315. That call out is going out right now. It's a 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. That will get you through the first 2 weeks of fall camp. It's a good time to do that because it's a lot of insider information as we'll be out there watching practices for the next couple of weeks as Ohio State prepares to play Texas in its season opener. For Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. That was Buckeye Talk.